Western Conference standings in the NHL. The Minnesota Wild are currently sitting with the 5th most points with 91 points heading into the playoffs. And the 8th seed or 8th ranked team with the most points has 86. So we're 5 points ahead of the final wild card spot teams. So definitely looking like we shouldn't have to worry about making the playoffs. It's just a matter of how high of a seed we can get and what kind of noise we can make once we get to the playoffs. The only teams ahead of us in the point standings are Chicago by 3 points, and then you've got the Predators, the Ducks, and the Blues, who are all a little untouchable. But it's possible we could catapult past the Blackhawks there. However, we've only got, it looks like, 8 games remaining, so not a whole lot of season left in the NHL. Playoffs will be starting soon. You got the last 1 to 2 weeks of the season going to be wrapping up here. All teams fighting for playoff positioning and playoff appearances, and should continue to be really good and interesting. So make sure to check that out if you're a hockey fan, or if you got nothing else to check out and you're looking for some good sports. But all right, that wraps up the NHL for this show. Let's move on to the NFL, keeping it in Minnesota. Vikings actually signed a few free agents here this week. They signed safety Taylor Mays, who I actually think is a decent signing, a lot better than most people are saying of a signing that he is, in my opinion. I think he's decent. I think he can play. It's just a matter, he's a guy who's not always right in between the ears. It has nothing to do with ability or anything like that. He's got great size, great speed, great strength, athleticism, all that stuff. Just for whatever reason doesn't seem to be focused or motivated all the time has been his issues and lack of or source of underachieving, in my opinion. But so we picked him up to add some depth to our safety. We also picked up Clay Matthews' much lesser brother, Casey Matthews, at linebacker. We'll see if he makes the team or not. I would like to see him make the team just for the 2 times every year that him and his brother get to go up against each other. It's a nice little feel-good story. And then we also signed 39-year-old, I believe he is, cornerback Terrence Newman, formerly of the Bengals with Mike Zimmer, and for many years before that, he was with the Dallas Cowboys. Great veteran corner, just doesn't have much legs left, but could be a great depth guy and a great locker room guy to help some of those younger guys develop into better corners. The final Vikings news would be on AP, as always. As of now, he is still on the exempt list. The Goodell said that April 15th date still stands as to when they will make a decision on him. I feel that date's important because I think that's a big reason he's still on the Vikings team and hasn't been traded at all yet, is because he can't play yet. If I was the Cardinals or the Cowboys or any of these teams looking to trade for AP, I'm not going to do it until I know that he can play next year, because that definitely affects what his value is and what I'm willing to give up for him. So I believe that as long as he gets reinstated come April 15th or by April 15th, which is 2 weeks before the draft, I want to say, that at that point in time, that's when you will see the actual trade possibilities for AP heat up, because his agent came out this last week and said they feel it's not in their best interest to return to Minnesota. AP clearly does not want to be a Viking. The Vikings clearly feel that they have him under contract for 3 years, and he needs to honor that contract, or someone needs to make them a worthy trade offer, which none have been up to this point, because, like I said, the guy can't even play, so teams aren't going to offer that much. Hopefully he gets reinstated by the 15th. The Cardinals decide to up their offer, give us a second round this year and a third round next year and whatever, and we can get this done and everybody can move on. But don't look for anything to happen too likely until after he has had his reinstatement hearing and been officially removed from the exempt list and been reinstated. Let's see, lots of other quick football news to get to around the NFL. The owners are having their annual meetings currently going on right now. So a few rule tweaks they've gotten so far, but nothing too interesting. I think the main thing that drew my attention coming out of the owners' meetings was that the Buffalo-Jacksonville game in London next year will be on local TV in Jacksonville and Buffalo areas, but not on Sunday Ticket. And the only way you will be able to see it if you're not in the Buffalo or Jacksonville area is to watch it broadcast worldwide exclusively on a digital platform, and it will be the first NFL game to ever be exclusively broadcast worldwide on digital platforms. So that's interesting. It's modern, it's progressive. It could be something you see a lot more of in the near future. The other thing that I took away from the owners' meetings that I found were interesting, actually even more interesting than that, is that they have decided to completely do away and eliminate local blackouts. There will be no more local TV blackouts in the NFL. So if your team doesn't sell out, we don't need. If the Vikes can't sell out come Sunday, we don't need General Mills to go buy a couple thousand tickets and bail us out like they always have in the past. We will still get to watch the game on TV. Thank you, NFL. This is so many years overdue. So many years overdue. And thank you on behalf of all fans, all football fans, who have not been able at some point in their time to watch the team they love because the game didn't sell out and they live in the viewing area. Thank you so much. Great move, great decision, and hopefully it sticks and isn't just a one-year experiment type of thing. Oh, they've also, yeah, that's right. The owners also said another thing, that after next year they're going to look at possibly expanding the playoffs, the current playoff system, adding more teams, something along those lines, adjusting it somehow. They're not going to do it this year. They thought about doing it this year, but they decided they wanted another year of research. Other NFL news, the Browns and the Falcons are both in big trouble with the league. The Browns for sending text messages on the sidelines between coaches or something during the games, and the Falcons for using artificial crowd noise at home during their games. They are looking to lose draft picks or be heavily fined or both. But it says that the punishment will be severe and that they are nearing the end of that. Also, Roger Goodell said that their private investigator is nearing the end of his investigation on Deflategate, and we should get some sort of ruling, decision, explanation, what have you on that sometime within the next few weeks. All right, in player news, Johnny Manziel's still in rehab. That's the only news there. Eli Manning is, I want to say, in the final year of his contract, if not the final year, the final 2 years. But anyway, the New York Giants have come out and said that it is not a priority for them to restructure his contract, and that they're content to let him play out the contract and then go from there as far as re-signing him or moving in a different direction. So that's slightly interesting, and from my opinion, considering how organizations usually handle that sort of thing when it comes to quarterbacks who have won multiple Super Bowls for their franchise, not generally how they're treated. But so I thought that was interesting. Other quarterback news, Phillip Rivers down in San Diego says he has no interest of playing in a city that is not San Diego if the Chargers are in fact to move to Los Angeles. Is contemplating retirement or threatening retirement. This could all just be a front to protect his fan base and face in the San Diego area, or it could be something he genuinely believes, and we might get another surprise retirement before the beginning of next season to go along with the Patrick Willises and Chris Borlands and Jake Lockers and all the rest that we've had so far this season. So that's something to keep an eye on yet. Nothing definitive to report, but like I said, something to keep an eye on. Also, troubled pass rusher Greg Hardy, formerly of the Carolina Panthers and currently on, I want to say, the exempt list as well. He's not reinstated yet at the moment either from his troubles, but he signed a one-year $13 million deal with the Dallas Cowboys, a franchise that is strong enough to take that kind of heat and attention that would come with hiring a guy who's been out missed all but one game last year for sexual assault charges that were ultimately settled out of court. The NFL is not finished on his ruling yet either, and he could be suspended for some of, if not all, well, no, I don't think not all, but at least suspended for some of the next season. So that's a risk the Cowboys are taking too, but it's a one-year deal, not a whole lot of risk. He needs to meet a lot of incentives to get it up to that $13 million total, so don't feel like that's a flat amount. But the Cowboys are one of the few franchises that can take a chance on this guy at the time, so it makes sense to me. And let's see, also last week I forgot to mention that Percy Harvin had signed with the Buffalo Bills. One of the only moves the Buffalo Bills have done this offseason that I do not like. I do not think they needed another wide receiver, let alone one that is as troubled and as much of a locker room problem and head case as Percy Harvin. But I hope it works out for him because I do like the Bills franchise, and I like their team all around, especially what they've done to it this offseason. And in final football-related player news, or former player news, Darren Sharper, former Minnesota Viking, former Green Bay Packer, former New Orleans Saint, I want to say. But former safety in the NFL is facing 9 years in prison after reaching a plea agreement on sexual assault charges in Arizona, California, and Nevada, and will enter a guilty plea in Louisiana hearing charge within the next 30 days as well. So it looks like Darren Sharper, for at least 4 counts in different states of sexual assault, is going to be going to prison for the next 9 years. So apparently he's going to be going from experience playing safety to a new experience playing tight end, or maybe wide receiver. But he deserves it. So if you read more about what he did, he deserves all of it. He deserves more, possibly even 2. But anyway, happy trails, Darren Sharper. All right, some real quick NBA news. Playoff race is heating up. Out in the West, the 8 seed race is really what's the most interesting. You got the Pelicans and the Thunder both sitting right there. Mostly, though, you've got seeding just on both sides is what's going on there. The playoffs about 2 weeks away. You got a huge heated MVP race, which we'll have to get into at some other time. And you've got some injuries that finally big names are coming back. Blake Griffin for the LA Clippers, who's been out for quite a while, finally made his way back here this last week. Derrick Rose, who's been out for 4 weeks, is hopeful and expecting to be able to come back within 2 weeks. And he was expected to be out 4 to 6 weeks, so it looks like he is on the right timetable and may in fact return by the end of the season. Dwight Howard is returning tonight, and he has been out since January 23rd. He's returning for the Houston Rockets. They've been doing it all with James Harden without Dwight Howard. And I don't know that Howard makes him even that much better. He's just really fallen off the map. Isn't the player that we all remember him as being back in his younger days. And then finally you got Kevin Durant still out for the Oklahoma City Thunder, hoping to get back in time to help his team make a playoff push if they can in fact get into the playoffs, into that 8th seed. Again, you're listening to Balls Deep Sports Talk here, and we are in Balls Gone Overtime. That's right. Balls in OT. But we got just a tiny bit more here we'll touch on, and then we'll get to the wrap-up with a real quick, deep thought. In tennis last week, at the ATP World Tennis Championships, Djokovic defeat Roger Federer 2-1, because they don't do the 5 like they do in the normal big majors on the ATP Tour. It looked like great tennis, the highlights I saw of it. In NASCAR, the story is actually not with who's first, but with who's second. Harvick finished second in the top 2 this last week, and that makes his 8th straight race of finishing in the top 2. The all-time record is held by Richard Petty, having 11 in a row back in 1975. And I've seen race analysts on ESPN remark that this is one of the most impressive things they've ever seen in wrestling, that in this day and age to be in the top 2 8 weeks in a row is as impressive as anything they've ever seen. And since I'm not a racing expert and it makes sense to me, I tend to agree. Also in racing, Kurt Busch is back. Last week was his 2nd race back after his suspension for alleged abuse charges. So, yeah, a lot of domestic abuse charges going on in professional sports. Let's just put a stop to that if any of you people are listening. Okay? Okay. All right, PGA quick. Last weekend, Matt Every won the Arnold Palmer Invitational for his 2nd year in a row. He came back in the final round to beat Henrik Stenson, who finished in 2nd place, and Stenson missed a putt on 18 that would have forced a playoff. But again, that didn't happen, and Every won for his 2nd year in a row. So, and the Masters are coming up here in just a couple weeks in the middle of April. Can't wait. That'll be when the golf season really gets underway. So, all right. Lastly, we're just going to go over some of the NCAA March Madness results quick. Where was I wrong? If you listened to my preview last week, well, where I was wrong was I picked the wrong conference to be the upset conference. I thought the East was going to be strong and the South was going to be the upset conference. It ended up being the other way around. Both number 1 and 2 seeds, Villanova and Virginia in the East, were upset. Now you're looking at all